So much for coming out. I'm Frank McCreary, Superintendent of Schools. Can you hear me? Fine?
Yes.
I won't use a microphone. Well, this tonight I have John Jojo and Michelle Esperance from Mosaic Architects. They're our architects. Jim Southard is our Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance, so if there's questions regarding the budgeting and how we pay for it, really Jim is the person who knows the most about all that stuff. And Jeff Avenzio, our elementary school principal. So we can be able to answer most of your questions, or if we have more questions that we can't answer, we'll get those answers and put them up in our newsletter as well. So I'm going to get right into the forum. We are recording this tonight, so if anyone's not here and they want to see it, we have the ability to watch it, and also this slideshow will also be up on the website as well. So why do it? So just like in your own home, you got to continue to do upgrades. I will tell you that the business off the elementary school has been basically the same since it was built. They put on an addition, but a lot of what you see here has been here for a very long time. We're in some pretty good shape, but there's still a lot of things that we can do better. So there's been a lot of deferred maintenance over the years on certain things, and what we want to do now is start taking care of some of those things that we really need to get done. For example, in our transportation facility itself, it is unsafe. There's the point where you can't get all the buses up any longer. It's really crowded. It is becoming a work hazard for some of our people that are working in there. That transportation facility is exactly the same as it was when it was built. So that's kind of, if you want to put that in perspective of how things have changed over the time frame, that kind of will get you where it is. The problem is the capital improvement projects are way for school districts to access state aid. Well, for us, we get 53% back, about average. So some school districts you'll see like they get like 95 or 90, and that's why you do large building projects always have. We get 53%. We're a low risk, low cost district, right, Jim? What does it say?
Low need.
Low need, thank you very much. So we're a low need district, meaning that we have a lot more funds and wealth ratio in our community, so we get less state aid. So the more money we have in our community, the less state aid that we get, and we get about 53% back on our capital projects, which really isn't a ton of money as you're looking through larger projects. One of the things that we did when we were looking at this is when we first started a couple of years ago, is we did an enrollment study, and then we did another enrollment study because we've seen that this growth has been happening in our community. I mean, all of you live here. I think you've all seen, we've had Hilton, we've had Colony, and now we're going to be getting Albany Country Club in Gilman. That's another housing that's coming in. What we're looking at now is on that component, along with our building condition survey, has really prompted this project. So our building condition survey we do every 5 years. This year, there's been some, John and Michelle are the ones that did our building condition survey. There's things in that building condition survey that need to be replaced that are part of this project. And I can highlight some of those. John, do you have anything to say about that? Did it? And it did it right fine. So. Yeah. So right now we're looking at, I know you can't see it, I do apologize. By 25-26, we're going to be about 1,300 students in the district. It's spreading it out. Right now we are roughly, what is it, 576, Jeff? Or 600? Where are we in the elementary school?
We are about 595, 596. We just lost 2.
Yeah. So 595, we're about 120 to 110 kids per class. We're trying to get 5 sections for all of them. Currently we have one group that has 4 sections. All of our rooms are basically maxed out that we could have larger scale classrooms in. We have some smaller scale classrooms, but they can't fit all the kids into it because of the size. Again, it's been built all those years ago, so we're not up to a size that we can really get it going. Oh, wrong way. So we have 2 propositions that we're going to be going up with. The first proposition is $25.2 million. And your one-page document kind of goes over some of these as well. So years ago, reworking existing spaces to create more instructional spaces. So we're not trying to build this big, beautiful building and know that in 10 years our enrollment might go down a little bit more. We're trying to sustain what we have and reutilize what our building can be. So just some restructuring within our campuses. Installing the secure vestibule and building entrance. I think you all have noticed this if you haven't been there before. That is our main entrance into our building. As you get buzzed in, our office is all the way over to the left-hand side. So any visitors that come in, there's a blind spot to either which way you go, which really is not the most secure place to have in a building. They want everything secure and entrance-wise. Centralizing the administration and health offices, we're going to replace the elementary school stairwell. That stairwell right up there If you walk up and down it, you'll see that you're actually starting to see some wear and tear on it that really needs to be replaced. As part of our building condition survey, that actually needs to go away. So we are going to replace that whole stairwell. There's also some fire stuff that has to be done as well. We're going to create a new cafeteria in the existing transportation facility, which will double as a self-contained community space. I'll explain that in a minute. We're going to utilize green space outside for instructional classrooms. We're going to fix the family drainage system on the soccer field, which is out back. And we're going to construct a freestanding transportation facility at the rear of the high school. The only way that we can truly make this work is the transportation facility has to leave. If the transportation facility stays, we can't really reorganize the building to be able to meet the needs of our community. Again, these are around. You'll see them on our website. They're also upstairs. I know it's a little hard to see at the moment, but please, I'll do my best to explain it. We currently are right in here. So this is where we are. This purple spot is that stairwell that will be replaced. Everything in orange is getting touched. This is an alternate. So when we go out for bid, there are certain things that we know we're going to have to do, and then if there's money left over, we're going to want to do a little bit more. The sinks and cabinets that are in these areas here should be replaced. We could be replacing them. That's the deferred maintenance that we want to take care of now. But if it doesn't, if the bid's coming too high, that will not be something that we'll be able to do. Did I do that right, John? All right. So, and there'll be a lot of time for questions at the end. I'm just going to try to run through this as quick as I can, and then go back through it. And if there's questions before I move to the slide, please ask. This is the current transportation facility. In here is a brand new cafeteria. Now, people are saying, what about flooding? We're actually going to raise that up about 36 inches to meet the need of the rest of the building, because right now it's actually lower than the rest of it. So there will be no flooding issues with it. We've also done chemical coring to make sure that there were no chemical issues or anything like that. Everything came back good and clean, so that's a positive. We're also going to create a full kitchen. Right now we only have a prep kitchen, so that's why you're not seeing like all these really great things that we have at the high school. Over here will be the full course kitchen that we'll have for our students. This actually is going to be green space. I'll explain that in a little bit. Going to our secure vestibule area. This is going to be able to be completely locked off from the rest of the building, so it now becomes a community space at night. So if the community wants to use it for Boy Scouts or meetings or all the other things, this area is completely ready and open for our community to utilize. Going forward, the ADA entrance will be right here. Currently, the only ADA accessibility for this building is in back through a parking lot that's paved with gravel. So the only ADA accessibility is in the back, or if you go all the way around the building to where the playground is. So we're going to actually make the ADA accessibility where it should be, right in front of the building. Now, this is an old building, and you're going to say, well, what is the facade going to look at like? We have to go through SHPO, which is the Historical Preservation Society. Right, John? Yes. And that has to be approved. So we're not going to put this real big modern building up to it. It's just going, we're going to try to make sure that it matches the rest of the building as we have. We would go into the secure vestibule area. In this area here, where there's walk-in freezers and kind of offices and different things, and so the kitchen. This will now be the high school, the elementary school office, PBS office, and small meetings. So the whole administration will meet there. This area here, which is now the transportation office, actually becomes the nurse's office. So everything becomes centralized in one location. One of the ways that we're actually going to be able to maximize our space is moving some things around. The cafeteria is currently right here. These now become music rooms. So we're switching out what our cafeteria is and moving our music rooms to here. This area right here is now actually a kids club office where the aftercare program is, and a smaller classroom and then a smaller classroom here. We're going to open this room up and make it the art room. So we're going to expand the art room to where it is, move it down so it's a very small, out-of-date room, and centralize all of the arts into one place in the building. That frees up all the other rooms and the rest of the campus. Over here is where our restrooms are, and there's restrooms here. We're going to facelift those and update them. For the bathrooms, we're also going to create storage inside where the lockers are, because things cannot change any longer. So we're going to maximize all of the storage. Because one thing we don't have here is storage. This building, if you walk around, there's some things that you really shouldn't have in the hallway that we do. So they have to go into places. So we're going to create a large amount of storage in these areas. Right here, as you can see this coming in, that is actually going to become an office where the aftercare program, if they so wish to, this is where they will be. Then we're going to update all of these facilities at the same time. I'm going to talk about the EPC later, but I'm going to explain what that is. But the other proposition is an energy performance contract. And a part of that contract is all the lights in this building are going to be taken out and all new LED lights will be put in. So the whole campus is going to have new LED lights and new ceilings. New ceilings alone are estimated to be in the, quote me if I'm wrong, John, about $1.5 million. Am I correct? So, yeah, so for ceilings to be replaced at a campus, it's $1.5 million. Just to give you an idea of like the scope of how much things cost in comparison to like a generalized one. Any questions on this first floor before I move on to the second floor? Okay. Follow me. Here comes the second floor. The rooms now that we're using are now going to become classrooms. This room here, which is a classroom, will now stay a classroom. And that will be an overflow room for our teachers, because they have more opportunities, so we'll be able to have this section. This is an AIS room. We're going to expand it out a little bit, and that becomes a larger scale room that we can utilize in the future if we need to as overflow. So we want to be able to create the opportunity for more classes if we need them, but still meet our needs, because we know our community is going to continually grow. This area here is currently where our office is. We're going to use that exactly as it is. We're going to make little small updates, and that's where our counseling center will be. So our social worker, our school psychologist, and our guidance counselor are all going to be in one location. We'll be able to do common rooms for our students, really start meeting some of these social emotional needs that a lot of schools are trying to do for their kids. We'll have a whole station allowed for them. Here's our library. The library is going to get a bit of a facelift. It's going to have new carpets put in or new areas, because if you go in there, those carpets have been there a long time. They need to go away, they need cleaned up, and we're going to extend it. This is where our old nurse's office is. That's going to be extended to make a makerspace, and then create an office or an IT person, because we're really slow on offices, and people are kind of crammed all together in areas that really shouldn't be offices at all. Again, our stairwell, and then that's kind of all there's going to be on our second floor. Questions for second floor? And again, everything is being touched because of our LED lights and ceilings. Click wrong, eh? And then this is our third floor. Currently, this is where the art room is. This becomes another classroom. This also becomes another classroom. Where our science room currently is, this becomes a classroom as well. Over here is our access to the elevator and also to the roof. There are some safety concerns and fire code concerns that we need to address. So we're going to be able to do some infrastructure updates to this area, along with looking at these doors. If you've ever been in this building, you'll notice there's two doors and then another door, and right in the middle is a metal pole that multiple students have hit over a period of time, and adults, me being one of them. So then we're going to look at making sure that we can make that a little bit safer by changing the door structure as well. That is this part of the building. I'm going to move to the outside. Here is where we currently are. Here is the parking. This is the developer side parking, and here is the river. Right here. We're going to address this area where there is a lot of issue with erosion, because one of the major issues that's happening is that we're seeing our river take away more of our land, so we don't want to do more work and not have it there for a long period of time. So similar to what's on the other side of the bridge, we're going to fix this whole area as well. Swinging around to the back of the area, where you'll see these lines, this is the power line. So that's right away, it has to be given. Right here is where our gravel parking lot is. We're going to shorten that gravel parking lot because we won't need it any longer. And we're going to create a shed area over here where we can keep our storage, our salt equipment and other like lawnmowers and stuff that need to be done. The shed that is now falling apart over here on the side of our building will go away, because that is, if you look at it, it actually structurally is not going to be there in the next 5 years. It really doesn't need to be replaced. Also, if you ever look at Google Earth and you look at our elementary school, you'll see drainage. The drainage that currently is into this whole park, this whole area, is all failing, and it needs to be replaced. If we don't replace it, we're going to have more sinkholes than we currently already fixed over the past year. So that is the outside area that will need to be done. Going back into the building, here is currently where our transportation facility is. This over here is the footbridge coming into the building, and this is where the new entry will be. This is all green space. Again, this is not what it's going to specifically look like. The design hasn't been done yet, but it gives you a scope and idea that you'll have this outdoor learning center, the ability to be able to have walkways and seating areas. This is all raised up in elevation, so it's completely safe. No car's going to run into that area. Again, we're raising it up about 32 to 36 inches, so that whole area is going to be much, much bigger. This parking lot will be restructured to make sure that we can have maximum flow for buses, and along with making our parking more accessible for our families and staff. So that will free up a lot of our parking issues, considering our staff who are driving buses. We have about 17 to 18 drivers, correct, Jim? Yep. They'll be parking elsewhere, so we do that. Also, our buses that park in the same lot will also be good. So it is going to be freeing up a lot of that space. That is the elementary school in a very quick nutshell. Any questions on that? All right, moving on. Now we're moving on to the transportation facility behind Martin Road. Here's Martin Road. It's about 600 feet, right? 600 feet from here to the front of the road here. This is the back of the current building of the high school, where there's a parking area that moves up. This is the baseball field that is currently there. So this area currently is a hill. The plan is to maximize the unused space that we have in the district. Because again, this is unused and probably never would be used. So this space would be dug out, a retaining wall built in, and we'll be able to put in all of these of our facilities right here. These are utilitarian builds, and I want to say that over and over again. We're not building a brick building that's going to cost $15 million, $20 million. These are tin buildings, built to last, making sure that we're taking into some considerations. But we're not building these wonderful, giant, huge lights all through and everything. It's utilitarian because, again, these are taxpayer dollars that we're looking at, having you build on, vote on, and we want to make sure that we're using that money wisely. And that money really should be going into this building where the students are. So we're doing a utilitarian build when it comes to it. Some of the major issues that we have to look at is snow storage. So you'll notice that we need to make sure that we have enough storage and snow going in here. We have our parking areas that come in and out. It is a 3-bay garage. We have spaces for our current small buses, spaces for our larger buses. We probably will need to have a little bit more parking for our design. But this is the area itself where the busing will be. If you notice, there's no gas refilling station. That is because within the next 10 years, the state is mandating that schools switch to electric buses. So we're going to have the infrastructure built in as well to be able to put the electric buses here, so there will be charging stations throughout. So we'll be able to meet the future needs of what our school community is going to need as well. Any questions on this area before I move on? Yeah.
That top left corner is my house right now. I'm wondering what happens with the salt, and is that going to go into my well? That's where my well is.
You know the answer on
Our snow storage area obviously provides for on-site retention.
But when it melts, what do you do with it?
Obviously, it gets recharged into the aquifer
That's my well.
that's, I understand. But we have oil and water separators that are built into the pavement itself. And these items do comply with state regulations. So we're not recharging, we're not just dumping salt out of the
Well, I don't mean dumping.
Well,
No, I'm sorry. Are you confused with the salt that's on the road currently that gets put down, or the
Well,
salt
they're
that the
gonna
district
have to
uses?
increase the salt on the road for the school. I mean, that,
I would imagine they would use the same amount of salt otherwise, because this is town does the salt and we do not.
no, that's the next question. No, the county doesn't, it's a town road.
Yep. So we went to a separate, so all of those agencies, the DPW, the county, they've all signed off on this project.
The town, I contacted the town yesterday, and he knew nothing about it, so.
We submitted our drawings to the Albany County Department of Public Works for comments.
It's not a public, it's a town road.
I understand what you're saying, but it's,
So Public Works doesn't take care of the road, the town does.
I understand.
Okay.
But we submit to the DPW for approval.
So the town doesn't do anything? DPW doesn't take care of the road?
As far as approvals go, the answer is no. Our building permits come from the state education department in Albany.
have you done a road study? I mean, that road isn't, they don't even line the road because it's not wide enough.
We've done our analysis for buses, our buses travel on every road in the district, basically, and it's.
One bus goes down our road.
Palace
Yes.
exceeded that, so what we can do is, we can further look into this to get some of the answers for you. Because I know that the concern is going to be, let me make sure that I'm correct in
And
saying.
it's a personal
No,
concern,
no.
I mean, it's really gonna,
It's gonna impact me too.
Yeah.
on the-
No, then I completely understand that, I wanna make sure that I have this understood, so when I look and get some of these answers, we know, so, hey, it's gonna be salt and dust.
right,
Yep.
what happens?
Yep, salt and dust, I definitely understand that, and we'll make sure that we get some answers
Or
out.
did they, what hap, I mean, I know this is in the plans and I don't see, but like what happens if the oil, that you're changing the oil in the buses?
They have salt separators and everything else.
And that goes in the big thing, right?
Yes, those are all
That's
taken
what I
care
thought.
of. So that's not one that I would be nervous about
Right.
because we have all of those things taken care of as far as
So
the
we have
project.
wells on that road. so
Yeah.
that's the
But the salt is something that we can look into to get answers on. When we'll talk to the PAL, the engineering firm, regarding the road study. Currently, they said that we've been able to do this and work through it, so I would make sure that I get some more engineering language, so I can have better answers to help you with both.
Yeah, it's just a concern because the buses right now can't turn in and out of the, you know, the corner that's already there.
Mhm.
You know, they have trouble turning in and out of there. As you can see by your drawing, the driveways, the exits and entrances are wider than actual Martin Road is, if you can see. So how are the buses gonna turn in and
So
out?
we're gonna take that into consideration, now with the engineers to look into that further.
And will you require the buses to exit out to 85A, all of them? Or will they be going up and
That's
down?
dependent on the transportation aspect of what they deem necessary for our staff and students.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have
But
you
I-
looked into any others?
Yes, the district has looked into multiple locations over multiple years.
I know when we voted on it, years and years back, that it was supposed to be where the satellite fields are now.
There was no budget vote on this in the previous year.
Not budget, I think it was a proposal.
So no, but at this point, this is the budget proposal and vote that's out, it's still on the road. I'm gonna move on, just to show the inside of the building. Again, this is just gonna meet the needs of what the building is. An office, storage rooms, mech room, and this is a lunchroom, or meeting area room, and then the basement garage. And we're gonna come back to your questions and make sure we have those answered, and I'll put that also in a newsletter and on our website. And again, I might actually end up calling you as well, since I know where you live, and we can have a further conversation.
That's not the cost.
So proposition number 2 is up to $2 million. This is the energy performance contract. An energy performance contract is, this is something that does not impact the tax levy. The other one, the 2.25.2, that does impact the tax levy, and I'll talk about that. This one does not. This one allows us to take our budget utility bills that we currently have and our state funding that we get back and forth from borrowing, to use that over a period of years to pay back the bond. So we're going to, so what ended up happening is, they do the work, this would be Danforth, they do the work in the buildings, they know how much money we're going to be able to save over a period of 18 years, and then when we bond out, and we do that, all that money coming back in savings and the bond interest rates coming back and forth, and the revenue coming back from our state aid pays for that. So currently right now, it's up to $2 million, we're still doing a final understanding of exactly what we can get. It's about 1.5 grand at the moment. We're gonna bundle it all together, so that way we're not asking you to vote more on a tax levy, we're trying to be able to keep that all together and push out a lot of the project that needs to get done into the EPC work it can do. I use EPC for energy performance management. So one thing it's supposed to do is we're expected to reduce the district greenhouse gases and energy consumption to the equivalent of 1,302 cars removed from the road annually. And it's about $80,000 in annual energy savings. So in this building, all new LEDs, all new lights, completely new with dimming systems, energy controls and other things that are gonna happen as well. In the middle school and high school, they're gonna retrofit the lights. We can't have them all put all new ones in because it is pretty expensive. So they're going to retrofit all the LED lights in there. One of the other things that we're going to do, which is really important, is that part of my farm plan, there is a heating system called the Desert Air Complex in the high school. For our pool, that's actually fading, and it's failing, and part of the 5-year plan states that it has to be replaced. That's about $650,000 for that one unit. This is gonna be a part of EPC, so that will take care of that, along with the lights and everything else. So again, air sealing, insulation, district-wide, updated controls, but the big projects are the lights and also the heating systems and controls. Danforth also does any asbestos abatement that goes along with it, so that's also included. Because again, we are an old building. I mean, I would be remiss if I said that we didn't have asbestos. We do, but everything's done in a controlled, scientific manner, and everything's going to be planned accordingly when we do it. But Danforth, who controls the EPC, also does any abatement that goes along with it. Any questions on what an energy performance contract is? Okay. So, why are we voting on it now? The growing enrollment is one of the number one reasons. As you know, we continue to grow. Over the next few years, we're looking at about 350 new students to the district over the 10-year span. Re-envisioning elementary school will also allow us to maximize space to be able to meet the needs of our community. And as together as a component of the EPC, it really does try to keep the level down. So, why is the benefit? The biggest impact is for our future students. That is the biggest concern that we've seen as an administration, that we've looked at. Our faculty and staff have been concerned with this. As our enrollment goes, the ability that we can do in this building to meet our current needs. Jeff, it's 590, 595. We're starting to meet our maximum capacity. We get to 625, 650 with our current roles. We're going to be teaching the hallways. There's definitely going to be some major issues that we're having. We're just starting to really overrun our needs. How much would the project cost? Jim, do you want to explain this? Because you are much better at all this stuff than I am.
Okay, so we have a state building aid ratio that's based on our wealth ratio, and that's in the mid-60s. But some things are not aidable when it comes to a transportation garage. Some things are not going to be aidable when it comes to the elementary school, but many fewer things. So netting out, the estimate is that 53% of the project would be covered by state aid. The remainder would be covered by reserves that we have been building up that we are asking you to let us use in the project, and local property taxpayers share as well. As I said, $4.5 million in capital reserves would be used. So because we have two different projects, the elementary school and the transportation garage, the elementary school is a reconstruction, which is a 15-year payback. The transportation garage as a new facility is a 30-year payback. So there's two different, essentially, bonds going up for this. For the first 15 years, we pay for the elementary school. It's estimated as a maximum of 2.5% on the tax levy. That'll be a one-time thing. It'll stay there for the 15 years. After that, it should drop off to 1.1% to cover only the rest of the transportation garage. So we've estimated the cost. Roughly $300,000 is the rough average value of a house in the district. And the cost for that home would be $120 per year for the first 15 years. That's what our estimate has been based on all the information we have.
Any questions on that? Good.
Yeah. So the it's 40%, 40 cents is it per thousand?
40 cents per
Does that
thousand,
get-
true.
Does that get added as a separate line item on the tax bill, kind of like you see now, like it's a school tax, library tax? Would
No,
that get-
it would be part of the school tax.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And do we know when the last time? I'm not sure. We're in the town of New Scotland, but town Gillen. But when's the last time we were assessed?
Gillian was assessed about 6 years ago, correct?
Okay.
I would that equalization rate change, which then impacted the school taxes with the equalization rate, which schools don't have control over equalization.
Nope.
So I do know that Gillian was about 5-6 years ago. I do not know the rest.
I want to say Town of New Scotland was 2 or 3 years ago because they were at 100%, and then it went down.
Burn is.
Burn has not in quite a while because they're at 50% right now.
So this is, so it's all this assessed value property tax or tax.
It's off the true value.
What is true value?
So true value is when you take your assessed value and divide it by the equalization rate. So for example, in Burn, your assessed value might be $100,000. Because it's a 50% equalization rate, to bring it up, dividing by half, it doubles it. So it's 200,000 true value for a $100,000 assessed home in Burn.
Yeah, okay.
It's
I don't see that in town of New Scotland. I don't see the way they assess that rate. It's based off of assessed value. The way it reads, the tax bill reads.
the tax bill is based on assessed value,
Right.
but you have to apply the equalization rate to get to that value. Everyone pays the
What you
same
don't
rate on
see
true.
the tax bill. Correct, Jim? You don't see the equalization rate on the tax bill.
Yes, we do.
Yes, it is included on the bill. But basic, and it does show a true value based on that equalization rate on the bill, if you look at that. So
Okay.
the equalization rate is a very difficult concept, but basically the state's trying to say, okay, your assessment equals X% of what we think is true. That's what it comes down to the court.
And the district has no control of that. So
Oh, I know
that's-
that.
Yeah.
No, I.
Well, I just want to be clear, because there's been times where people have thought the districts, when you see major tax increases, where people think that the district can't control it, and unfortunately we can't. That's one that's completely out of our hands.
Correct.
So is this 2.5% going to be in addition to any additional tax, school tax increase?
Well, so last year we went out and we went underneath our cap by about 1.8%. We could have been to the cap, which is about 4.5. We did not do that. We went underneath the cap that we could have won at. Now, that's where the new level was at last year. The 2.5 now sets a new level,
Yep.
and then the next budget cycle, if needed, will set another level. But that level is it's a scaffolded level that keeps going. It won't change after that level. This is here, this one passes, this is the new level, the old one goes away until the next budget cycle, or when there's another capital project, if there has to be a tax levy increase. Not all capital projects need tax levy increases. Since we're doing one at this scale, unfortunately with the 53% that we get back on state aid, that's why we need it. That 2.5 is here. If another one comes out and say the tax cap is 4 and we go out at 2, then their new level comes up to this area. Does that make sense? It doesn't.
The numbers, yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't go 2.5 and then another 2.5 on top of the level. It doesn't continue to compound, because that's what some people thought. They thought it's 2.5 this year, and then next year you're going to add another 2.5 on top of the year's budget. It doesn't do that. It's the new level and it stays flat for the rest of that time.
It's very similar to a mortgage. You have the same payment every year overall, just a different percentage goes to principal or interest. So that's.
Any other questions on it? Yes.
Jim, I think you mentioned back in May at the budget presentation, a very important point that sunk into me later on. I don't think anybody else mentioned it. It was in regards to some other smaller capital projects that were just in the budget. And you stated that you're going to time the state aid with the expenses so that everything stays at a kind of a flat level, which I'm not sure everybody really understood what that meant, but I left thinking, I was like, wow, that's actually the perfect example, because the last project we went through back in the early 2000s, the $18 million, they didn't time that.
Right.
And what happened is 1 year you got a gigantic chunk of state aid, so then our tax bill went down like 11%, and then next year there was no money from state aid, and it went up 15%. So it created this big boomerang that went on for several years. So I just wanted to make that point, that I'm assuming that's, what you said in June is kind of similar.
Our goal when we do this and with the projects that we're going to be proposing in the future is to try to smooth out the debt service so that it doesn't go up and down like that. So that it's roughly similar all the way across, so that we can get done what we need to get done without making huge changes for the taxpayer.
Thank you. That was a very important point there from back in May.
Thank you.
A lot of times we say we're managing our debt services. So, and that's how much we borrow in comparison to how much aid we get. But Jim, you guys just explained it very nice what that actually means in a better term than just that language. So, Any other questions on the budget aspect, because that is kind of confusing, but probably one of the most important parts of this whole project. So what happens if it doesn't get approved? That was a question that has been asked. So, and what happens if one project does and one doesn't? Well, they're intertwined to one another. So, you know, if the EPC doesn't get approved, the BCS does not happen for the desert air. So we don't get that. We still in 5 years have to find money to pay for that. Because it is failing, it does have to get fixed. The lights would stay exactly the same. And then in the classrooms where we currently are, the lights would stay exactly the same as well, so we wouldn't be taking care of the emissions or any of that stuff. So they really are connected to one another in that regard. If the project goes down, unfortunately, there really is no backup at this point because we don't have any other places to put a transportation facility. Even if you are going to go back out and redo the studies, it's going to take a year to 2 years or even longer than that. Because again, I believe the district was looking for at least 15 years prior to where to put a transportation facility to get to this point now. So if it goes down, unfortunately, I think the enrollment capacity that we're seeing is that you would see this building get probably max out. We'd have to look at maybe ways to maximize where our kids are in our campuses. And it would be really hard. It would just, it would be, it's something the district would have to figure out how to handle it. But you would see a really, imagine your house. You have a house, I had a house that was 1,200 square feet, and when we moved in, it was two of us. And we had one child, and it was great. And then we had 3 more children. So what ended up happening was that 1,200 square foot home was really nice, and we could easily do it with 6 people in the home with 1 bathroom. But it became a point where we couldn't function. And imagine that now when you're in school, and you now have increased your classroom enrollment by 150 in a school, in K-5, and now where do you do? Could you make it work? Possibly, but again, you're doing it in an environment that is not conducive to learning. We would be in hallways, our class sizes would probably be up to 30 kids in a room, because we wouldn't be able to meet the needs. You're not going to be able to spread those kids out, because if you want a bit smaller class sizes, you need more rooms, right? 125 kids in a class, you want 25 kids in a room, it's 5 classrooms. If you can't meet that, you're going to have 30 kids in a classroom because your enrollment size goes down. That's the unfortunate aspect of it, is that class sizes will increase, your sizes will increase, and it actually will bring down the quality of education for our kids. So it is a component of it that you want to think about, but I do want to share that those are the things that, what would happen if it didn't pass. Those are the biggest impacts. So our project timeline, any questions so far? Again, I want to make sure that I've heard questions and get answers. And, we are recording, so I go back. So please, if I'm not writing it down, please understand I am keeping along with it. So our project design development. So after the vote, we are not designing anything yet. Nothing has been designed. The rendering that you see over here, they're just renderings. It's a concept to show you what it could possibly look like. It doesn't mean it will look like that. We're trying to space these 2 out. So the bus garage and design and development phase goes from March to April. And then the elementary school would go through about July 2023. We would submit to state ed for the bus garage by May or June of 2023. And then the elementary school by August of 2023. We're hoping that we can bid and have the garage out by October of 2023. And then BES out by 2023 or 2024. And this is where then it gets pretty hairy. The bus ride would start in December of 2023 and then hopefully finish by November of 2024. After that time frame, hopefully this is more like July and not August. And then by July or August of 2024, we can start here and then phase that project out for about a year until October 2025. It's a long-term project because, again, we're going to have to be doing some work when it's in the buildings. And when school is in session, so we're going to have to work around those projects. We're going to have to close down the stairwell, and there's a lot of issues that would come along with it. So that's why you're seeing it take a long period of time, because we have to account for that. The vote is going to be Tuesday, December 6th. The reason why it's the vote of that day is because when we voted for it at the Board of Education, it's at least 45 days after that point that you have to do it. So it's about 52 days, right? December 6th is about 52 days afterwards. So that's why it's at that time frame. And it will be at the middle school at the normal polling place where we typically are. Any further questions? comments, anything? Three.
I'd just like to say that this is an excellent project. The envisioning of the cafeteria being where the restaurant is actually an old one, and it's fun, it's very nice to finally see that it could be in the office. Transportation has been such an issue in this building. I looked at it as just completely setting aside the enrollment issue that I know you're very concerned about, but the safety issue. How are you gonna deal with electric buses? Utilizing space, land that you already have is just wonderful ingredients into this project. But I just have a couple questions. So, and I appreciate, Jim, that you were breaking down for us the elementary school 15-year line, the bus garage at 30. Is that because the state will only aid it over 30?
Generally, with any borrowing, you equate it to what the state will aid at. And they only aid new projects over 30 years.
So they won't let you squish it and do it,
That would take special legislation, and I somehow doubt, seeing most of that go down over the past 10 years, that anyone would actually be able to get that through.
the reason that I ask that is, of course, the shorter is big savings on the cost, because you're not paying all that interest. So, that was just one issue that I had about it.
There's also provision that every 10 years they reevaluate, so refinancing is always a possibility if the interest rates go back down, so,
So the bond issue will have callability in them.
yes.
10 years, after callability?
Generally, you would put in a 10-year, just so you could evaluate that, especially with a 30-year project. You're gonna do it at least every, probably, after 10 years and then every 5 years thereafter, so.
Good. So, one thing, because I looked on the website, I'm trying to kind of keep the school out of my brain, in my brain, but.
You did enough years in school.
So anyway, if there was a little more information available to the public about financing, because, basically, 2/3 of the people who live in this district do not have kids in school. And selling them on how carefully you have planned out the financing is important. Is there going to be another mailing?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
So tonight, this is kind of the communication plan aspect of it. This whole presentation and everything we talked about tonight here is actually going on our website. So it's being recorded. Lonnie is here. Thank you, Lonnie, for recording. So this presentation is going up along with the presentation that I've shown. That is also going up. Any of the questions or comments we're looking into, we're going to add those to the website, so we appreciate those. And then we're going to create another mailer, and so this is about a 4 to 5 page newsletter that will encompass everything that we've kind of learned or talked about. That's going to go out right in that sweet spot, right after Thanksgiving. So our scheduling is right after Thanksgiving before the project goes, because we don't want to send it out before Thanksgiving, because let's be honest, we're all busy. At that time, you're probably not seeing it. So right in that time frame, a larger newsletter of 4 to 5 pages of in-depth kind of conversation will go out right before the project.
Well, I just, again, would just like to say if we could just expand more about how it's being financed, so the public can appreciate all the thought that we put into it in aligning the state aid with the debt, et cetera, et cetera. That would be very helpful.
All of those documents already exist on the board docs, but we can gather them together so that they can be accessed to. Sure.
Probably try to do some visuals, because, I have to have visuals, otherwise it's a little hard for me to understand at times. So.
Yeah, some of it is very technical. You would understand it because you've gone through it completely, but some people may not. So we'll find different ways to
Well,
present it.
there's going to be, most people are going to go in it.
Yeah.
But there will be people who will absorb it and will say, gee, they really thought of that, and then they'll tell their friends. So,
Indeed.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
Yeah, this is really more for Mosaic. I'm totally in favor of it. Obviously, I have a first grader and I have a pre-K coming into the school, so I'll benefit. My kids will definitely benefit the most from it. I know the design's not finalized. If I could put a petition now, just to request, maybe ask the garage that's currently being housed for the bus garage, are we gonna utilize those openings, the door openings now? Like, is those gonna be like garage doors, like clear garage doors?
So no. So we're gonna be putting vents in, but there's a component of bees
Okay.
and everything else and birds, and we have to also, think about our children who are allergic to bees. It'd be awesome to have those garage doors, because we've been talking about that,
Okay.
but I have to look at it from also a liability and safety concern. And, so we're gonna put in windows and openings for ventilation, but we're not gonna have the garage fan come up.
So
but-
then, as far as like, where will the kids be housed, Jeff? When like, if once this project complete, like for pickup? Because sometimes like they're housed, like you guys have them wait outside.
Yeah,
So will
so,
they be inside, like in that cafeteria?
so I think right now as we're planning, if we had to have an indoor pickup day, they would be in the cafeteria waiting inside.
Okay.
And I would call their numbers the same way we do now, and they'd have cover, so for all weather conditions, and they'd come right outside to the parent's vehicle from being in an inside area.
And we may even be able to put an awning out
I
there.
was just gonna ask you to put it on, because that's one of my things now, is like, you see the kids outside, the little kids, like, they got their raincoats on, but it's pouring rain, poor Jeff's out there. He's out there in the pouring rain, calling numbers, and so, I would love to petition for a little, garage and cover area for him, but probably not with cars. Alright, that's great.
We are planning some kind of a canopy out in front. Obviously, we have to go through the State Historical Preservation Office, and we are planning on doing that. So the idea here is to get something period-like to match.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Alright, awesome. I look forward to the design, thank you.
And one thing too, I want people to understand, because they see the current garage and they think that that's where the ground is. I can't stress this enough. It's not open, but the lights are on, so as you're walking by, please feel free to peek in. Where you see the pink concrete before the brick, that's basically gonna be gone, or where the new steps will be, and that's how high it will be up. So those windows and everything else will be bricking and everything else. It will be changed, and the facade will be different, but you're getting an idea. If you use that as your kind of template, you'll see kind of where the building will be.
Our goal when we're finished is that it doesn't look like a bus garage that every
Any other questions or comments?
What is the current enrollment?
So enrollment, we're about 1280 right now,
Oh, okay.
right? And it could be off by a couple, but roughly 1280. And again, we're increasing all the time.
That's K through 12.
Yeah, we keep seeing our numbers going up and up, and our third grade or fifth grade just that? We had 15 in the
Third grade.
third grade. This year we have 15
This summer.
third graders move in.
Oh, okay, yes, you got it.
So, and
Oh,
sometimes that's kind of the issue, is that, none of this is gonna be, oh, we got 5 in kindergarten, 5 in first grade. It doesn't work that way.
It's a wave.
We
that
might
goes through.
get
Yeah.
12 third graders and 1 fifth grader and 1 ninth grader, and then next year, it's gonna be a whole nother one. So that, changing the rooms and flexibility is gonna be really important.
We currently have three grade levels at the elementary school that are over 100 students in the grade level. The current sixth grade last year was a pretty, and fifth grade was a pretty big group. I want to say there were around 118 students in that grade, so it's a decent sized group. It's close to the largest number we've had in probably the last 10 to 15 years here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we were at, above 1350 back in the late 90s.
Yeah. And that's, we're getting close to those numbers anymore.
Right around 99 is when it started to drop off.
Right.
So the programming is a little bit different too. So I think to Mr. McCree's point, like if, because of all the special education programming that we have, because of all the art programming that we have some great, fantastic programs. If we were to expand and not have this opportunity, you might have to see our art teacher out on a cart teaching in classrooms, which is feasible, it's possible. It's just not the same level of what she's currently teaching now. Same with some of our other specials. We could fuse with the library, things like that, right? PE obviously, there's a state mandate to that. We have the gymnasiums. We're not going to turn them into classrooms, but some of those things we have to pull those classrooms. We still have one room that's utilized for kids club solely, but we've taken over some of those other rooms and we're using for OT and PT and things of that nature. We literally have no space. We have no parental space for some of our young mothers that are here and are working through. We don't have a location for them to go throughout the day. We've lost that space.
Any other questions or anything like that? If there are questions or concerns, you can always email me at apple3@boardville.org. And definitely just keep on giving us more questions and things like that. So thank you so much for coming out to me, appreciate it.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to do a walkthrough, Mr. Rickery offered that up. I'm around. I'm happy to walk people through and kind of show them the areas that, yes, that they're envisioning. Happy to do that.
See, I lobbied for you.
I see. Try to get me inside.
I'll take you up on that.
Yeah, let's take a walk.